Loli.
The Loli trope is one of the most controversial and divisive aspects of anime. It refers to female characters designed to look like young girls, regardless of their actual age in the story. These characters typically have childlike features, such as large eyes, small stature, and soft facial expressions. In anime, Loli characters usually fall into two categories. The legal Loli, characters who look very young, around 8 to 10 years old, but are written as being hundreds of years old, such as vampires, goddesses, or dragons. This narrative loophole is often used to justify their appearance. The cute girl, characters created to inspire moe, a platonic, protective affection from the audience. The main controversy surrounding the trope is sexualization. While many Loli characters appear in innocent slice of life or comedic contexts, others are placed in suggestive situations or fan service scenes. Critics argue that even if a character is technically an adult in the story, their childlike appearance makes such depictions predatory or disturbing. Explanations like she's actually hundreds of years old are often seen as thin justifications for including childlike designs in mature contexts, catering to a controversial fetish under the guise of fantasy. This trope has contributed to a negative perception of anime among some audiences, pushing potential viewers away who see these designs and associate the medium with problematic content. Supporters, on the other hand, argue that it is purely an aesthetic choice and a form of fictional fantasy. They see it as a harmless appreciation of cuteness and emphasize that fictional drawings are distinct from real-life actions. In the end, the Loli trope sits at the intersection of artistic freedom and social ethics. While some treat it as just another anime archetype, many view it as a harmful or uncomfortable trend that the industry would be better off avoiding.
Power of friendship.
The power of friendship is a long-standing and sometimes divisive trope in anime, especially in shonen series. At its heart, it's the idea that a character can overcome impossible odds, exhaustion, or even a stronger opponent by drawing strength from their bonds with others. Typically, the protagonist is on the verge of defeat. The villain taunts them, hope seems lost, and then a flashback or emotional moment occurs. Memories of friends, a promise made, or a teammate's encouragement. Suddenly, the hero finds a second wind. This often takes the form of unlocking latent energy, transforming into a new form or gaining a power boost, or ignoring injuries or fatal wounds to land a final decisive attack. When executed well, it's highly satisfying. It taps into the universal human desire for connection and reinforces themes of loyalty, sacrifice, and emotional strength over raw power. The criticism comes from how it can undermine story stakes. If a hero wins purely because they care more about their friends, it can feel like an easy shortcut that disregards the rules of the world. For example, if a villain has trained for centuries and holds a perfect tactical advantage, a sentimental flashback shouldn't realistically allow the hero to win. It can feel unearned. Once the audience recognizes the trope, tension diminishes. The hero essentially has plot armor as long as their friends are involved. If friendship can heal injuries or revive a character, the threat of death or serious harm loses impact. Viewers stop worrying because emotional speeches and memories are a reliable solution, reducing the weight of danger and the stakes of battles.
Overpowered protagonist.
The overpowered protagonist is a common trope in modern anime, especially in isekai and shonen series. It centers on a main character whose strength, magic, or intelligence far surpasses everyone else, making the outcome of most conflicts obvious. Characters like Saitama, Anos Voldigode, and Rimuru Tempest are prime examples. This trope is popular because it's satisfying to watch someone effortlessly defeat villains who have been causing trouble. Sometimes, viewers just want to see a cool move without sitting through dozens of training episodes. In satirical cases like One Punch Man, the humor comes from the hero being bored with his own godlike power. Despite its appeal, the trope faces criticism. One major issue is the lack of stakes. If the hero can defeat anyone with ease, there's no real tension in battles. Traditional storytelling usually follows a hero's journey, struggle, failure, growth, and eventual triumph. An OP protagonist often starts at the finish line, leaving little room for meaningful development. These characters can also feel too perfect. They're not only strong, but often the smartest, the most morally upright, and universally admired, sometimes without any explanation. Supporting characters frequently become little more than cheerleaders, praising the protagonist instead of having their own arcs, which can waste interesting side plots. A common complaint is predictability. When being overpowered serves as a shortcut for writing, it can make the story boring. However, when the narrative explores the consequences of extreme power, like Saitama's existential boredom or Mob's emotional struggles in Mob Psycho 100, the trope can become surprisingly deep and thought-provoking.
Fan service.
Fan service refers to content that is included specifically to entertain or please the audience, but doesn't meaningfully contribute to the main story. While it can sometimes mean flashy transformation scenes or inside jokes for dedicated fans, it most commonly refers to sexualized material. It's similar to a gratuitous shower scene in a Hollywood film, something added more for visual appeal than narrative purpose. When people criticize excessive fan service, they're usually referring to recurring tropes, such as the accidental pervert scenario, where a character falls into a suggestive position. Exaggerated, physics-defying body or clothing movement, often called jiggle physics, full bath or beach episodes that pause the main plot, or camera angles that focus on specific body parts during otherwise serious scenes. While some viewers enjoy the playful tone or visual style, others find it distracting for several reasons. In high-stakes or emotional moments, sudden sexualized imagery can break immersion and undermine tension. For example, during an intense battle or dramatic confrontation, an unnecessary close-up can make it difficult to take the scene seriously. It may also give the impression that the show lacks confidence in its storytelling. Another common criticism is that it can reduce characters, often female characters, to visual appeal rather than fully developed individuals. If a character's main presence in a scene revolves around a wardrobe malfunction or suggestive framing, their depth and agency may feel sidelined. For many viewers, it can also be awkward. Recommending a genuinely strong series becomes harder if it includes moments that feel unnecessary or out of place. Critics argue that excessive fan service can seem like a shortcut to maintain attention or cater to a specific demographic when creative ideas run thin, making it feel repetitive or formulaic. That said, some genres, such as ecchi, are built around this concept, and audiences who watch those shows typically expect that tone. Most backlash tends to happen when heavy fan service appears in genres where it clashes with the atmosphere, such as serious seinen thrillers or grounded shonen action stories.
Nosebleeds.
This trope, known in Japan as hanaji, is a visual gag used to show extreme sexual excitement. When a character sees someone they're attracted to or has a perverted thought, their nose suddenly starts bleeding. The joke is that their blood pressure rises so dramatically that blood shoots out of their nostrils. Sometimes it's just a small trickle, and other times it's exaggerated into a powerful spray that sends the character flying across the room. Although it's mainly used for comedy today, the idea comes from an old Japanese folk belief. People once thought that built-up sexual energy or heat could raise blood pressure, causing blood to escape through the weakest blood vessels in the body, specifically the nose. Over time, however, the trope has become more divisive. It has been used for decades, and many viewers now see it as a lazy shortcut to show attraction instead of building real chemistry or meaningful interaction between characters. It's most commonly associated with pervert archetypes, which can make the joke feel repetitive. For some audiences, the constant leering followed by a dramatic nosebleed feels more awkward than funny. In serious or emotional scenes, a sudden burst of blood can also break immersion and ruin the tone. Because of this, modern anime has started to tone down the exaggerated blood fountains. Instead, many series use subtler signs of attraction, such as reddened ears, steam rising from a character's head, or covering their face with their hands or clothing to hide a genuine blush.
Tsundere.
The tsundere is one of the most well-known character types in anime. The word comes from two Japanese terms, tsun, meaning cold, irritable, or distant, and dere, meaning affectionate or sweet. A tsundere character switches between being harsh or aggressive and being kind or vulnerable. Usually the tsun side acts as a defense mechanism. Because these characters struggle to express their feelings or feel embarrassed about them, they lash out to hide their emotions. What makes them appealing is the contrast, often called gap moe between their tough exterior and their softer, caring side. When they finally drop the act and show genuine affection, it feels rewarding. That slow, emotional buildup is a big part of the appeal. However, the trope has become more divisive over time. In many classic portrayals, the female tsundere often hits or yells at the male lead over small misunderstandings. Some critics argue that if the roles were reversed, it would be seen as abusive rather than comedic. Because the trope is so common, it's also sometimes used as a recycled personality type. For some viewers, the constant shouting and insults feel repetitive and predictable. Others find it frustrating when tsundere characters refuse to communicate properly. Instead of being charming, their behavior can come across as emotional immaturity that prevents meaningful character development. In long-running series especially, a tsundere might show growth in one episode, only to revert back to their aggressive behavior in the next to preserve the status quo.
If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more.